sometime in 2019 while I was working for Odzero and I was receiving my salary in USD. I had need to make a payment, right, an urgent payment, and trying to convert from USD to my local currency at the time was such a tedious process that it took me almost an entire day, almost 24 hours. Emerging markets today, there is a problem of devaluation, currency devaluation. So we're picking this niche. This helps us to build custom products for this customer base, which other global fintechs are not necessarily building. One mistake that founders do is sometimes we try to pitch our business like the investor understands the pain points, but most times they don't really understand the pain points. So you need to be able to articulate it such that a layman would really understand.
Hi everyone, it's Akansha Devri, the founder and editor-in-chief of Tech Funding News, and welcome to another episode of Tech Talks with TFN, where we meet some really inspiring and interesting founders and everyone in the tech startup world. And today we have with us Idorenyin Obong, who is the co-founder and CEO of Grey. How are you, Idi?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm doing very well. And you?
Oh, good. A really nice weather today, I would say. And also, you are visiting from California to London. You are a Nigerian-born entrepreneur, engineer, and a tech person who's based in the US. And you founded Crave, which is like Y Combinator backed.
Yeah.
So tell us about the story of founding Grey. And you have a vast experience in fintech in really interesting companies. So yeah, tell us about yourself.
Thank you. So my career started as a software engineer. I had the opportunity to work at high growth fintechs from Busha Digital Limited, which is a cryptocurrency exchange in Africa. Then moved on to Paystack, which got acquired by Stripe. Then moved on to Yellow Card Financial, another cryptocurrency exchange currently live in 20 plus countries. I had the opportunity to also work at various foreign companies like Odzero, Circle CI, where I was a guest author writing technical articles. So I've had this vast experience as a software engineer over the last decade. And being a remote worker was where the spark came for me to start Grey. Sometime in 2019, while I was working for Odzero and I was receiving my salary in USD, I had need to make a payment, right, an urgent payment, and trying to convert from USD to my local currency at the time was such a tedious process that it took me almost an entire day, almost 24 hours. That was when I realized that this process could be way better than what it is today. And that was when I decided that I was going to build Grey to solve this problem of receiving payment for remote workers.
So how did you come up with the name Grey? Or was it always Grey or not?
Oh, it didn't start as Grey. We started as Aboki Africa. At the time, we were just purely focused on Africa. And much later, we decided to rebrand and change our name to Grey. Well, we chose Grey. We wanted something very unique. We wanted something that wouldn't necessarily limit us, even though we were to go beyond what we are starting the company as. We wanted a name that would capture the global nature of what we're building. And that's how we came up with our name.
Got it. And when did you meet your co-founder? So what's that story? Is there an interesting one behind that?
Yeah, I met my co-founder in college. We went to university together, studied computer science, graduated together. So we met in 2013. So we've known ourselves for over 10 years. And we've worked together building different mobile apps because he's also a software engineer. We worked together on different projects over the last couple of years, even before we started Grey. And so when I decided to start this, it was a no-brainer for me because we had worked together, we had some synergy, and picked up the phone and called him, and he was game for it.
That's lovely. So you were like best friends, besties into
Yeah.
founders. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story. And where was college?
At the time, we studied in Nigeria, a state called Cross River State, Nigeria.
So also great. So basically, you are helping in payment transactions
Yeah,
for freelancers economy
yeah,
and also remote workers, right?
yeah.
So how is it different from your competitors like Wise or others?
So we have a few differentiations to other fintechs or other global banking solutions. First is niche, which is remote workers and freelancers. Typically, what we've seen as of today is that one, traditional banks are mostly focused on high net worth individuals and typically focused on the general public. And then you look at new fintechs who are trying to simplify payments generally. They're also still focused on the generic consumer base. What we are doing differently is one, we are picking a specific niche and building for that niche. Now, the advantage or the differentiation this gives us is that we're able to build custom tools for this particular customer base. We're able to build things like invoicing, build products that help them manage their finances, help them build their wealth, especially because in like emerging markets today, there is a problem of devaluation, currency devaluation. So we're picking this niche. This helps us to build custom products for this customer base, which other global fintechs are not necessarily building. Also, with our own experience having lived and come from these regions, we've been able to really understand, have some cultural context on what exactly the problems are, and we're able to properly mimic how the solutions should look like for this customer base.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That was what were some of the early challenges that you and your founder faced when you came up with Gray? Because you started in Nigeria, right?
Yeah,
And then you expanded to the US.
yeah,
So that's a very long journey in
yeah,
a very less time. So
yeah.
how did you do that?
Well, there are a couple of early challenges. First, obviously, capital, which is a challenge that every startup founder has today. And we had to figure out innovative ways to stay afloat before we got funding. For the first 1 year, first 12 to 18 months while we started Gray, we couldn't get any VC funding. So we had to use our own capital, we had to use our personal savings and just get the company up and running. So that's what we did. Some other challenges were trying to figure out compliance and figure out partnerships because of the kind of solution we're building where we're providing global banking services. Obviously, we had to build partnerships with different banking institutions, e-money institutions. And that was very difficult for us to build from scratch. That was very difficult for us to secure when you're just starting. You don't have funding, you don't have that network yet. And so it was quite difficult, but we had to start with third-party providers who could just help us get off the ground before we eventually secured funding and then finally started building these direct banking relationships ourselves.
And when was the company founded?
So we had this idea in 2019. We launched an MVP in 2020, and our current solution today that provides global banking services was launched in 2021.
And I'm also thinking, why did you exactly choose to bring a solution for freelancers? It's because of your own story. But at the same time, how big is that market in Africa right now?
Yeah. So first one, we were remote workers, we the founders. So I think it was natural that we were going to pick the niche because we had first-hand experience, we had some domain experience on what the problem felt like. Secondly, is there is some form of neglect from traditional banking solutions today for freelancers, remote workers, and you see today standard banking solutions do not really provide the adequate service needed for freelancers, remote workers. It could be because sometimes their payments could be not as regular as a standard employee and all that. But in terms of the market, I think this is a very huge market. We saw what COVID did. COVID brought a shift in how remote work and that kind of changed the landscape of how companies were hiring, how companies were um, picking up talent to do their work. We saw that after 2020, after COVID, we saw that for the first time ever, companies in the West were now comfortable hiring people irrespective of where they are. And we've seen this market grow. We've seen, I think there's a very recent study from the World Bank where the number of remote workers globally is around 435 million, around 12% of the labor market force in general. And particularly in Africa, we see that this number is also growing. Like Africa is projected to be the largest producer of workforce by 2050 because of its young growing population. So that's also a good indicator for us and what we're building. It's a growing market and it's been growing since 2019, 2020.
I totally agree to that. I mean, COVID was one
Yeah,
thing that happened which increased the percentage of remote working.
yeah,
And when the West started hiring the people in West, they decided why not to hire someone from the East and
yeah,
Africa and
yeah,
India and all these places.
yeah.
And it actually worked out pretty well. And now it still continues. So I just want to understand that when was the Y Combinator scene that happened, and when did you decide that okay, now I'm expanding my boundaries for Gray?
So in 2021, we decided to apply for YC. Usually YC has two badges. Very recently, I think is now three badges or so. So in 2022 winter, we got into the 2022 winter badge, which is usually from January to March. So January to March 2022, we were at YC. And it was a very good experience for us. It was a good learning experience for us. We got
So
first-hand knowledge.
you applied and you were selected.
Yes, we were. It wasn't like our first application. We had previous applications which we got rejected, but we got accepted into the 22 winter 22
So
batch.
how many times did you apply before that?
Third time lucky.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the third time we got in, and it was a very good experience for us. We got to meet partners, got to meet other startup founders who built both successful and failed businesses, because you get to learn from both sides. You get to learn mistakes that these founders, these partners have seen in numerous businesses, and they're basically using those 3 months to advise and nurture you on avoiding a lot of mistakes which startup founders make today.
And then after that, so what will be the biggest lessons you would like to give to founders who are applying for YC?
Good question. One is you need to like really understand your business to the state where you're able to clearly articulate it to an investor who doesn't necessarily have that problem that you're facing. I think one mistake that founders do is sometimes we try to pitch our business like the investor understands the pain point. But most times they don't really understand the pain point. So you need to be able to articulate it such that a layman would really understand. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes a lot of founders make while applying for YC.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
some really good points. And also, you got funding from
Yeah.
them as well.
Yeah.
So, what's the funding story and how much total funding has Gray got so far?
So we raised an undisclosed pre-seed in 2021, and then we
How much
raised,
was that?
it was undisclosed. Well, we raised at $260,000 at the time, and then in after YC, after we got out of YC, we raised a total of $2.4 million.
And this was which year? 2021.
2022, yeah. After we got out of YC in March, so we raised another round just after YC between March and April.
So, you've raised total around 3 million, is what I understand in terms of seed funding.
Total 2.4 million actually.
Okay.
But yeah, what we raised at YC was just about 2.2, $2.3 million. Yeah.
Got it. And are you looking for more investments?
Look, we have a few ambitious plans for next year, new products, new initiatives, growing our market, and we'll definitely be open to new funding to execute those initiatives as well.
Got it. And are you looking for investors from the US or UK or Europe? How are you planning that?
Well, we are not really picky in terms of geography, but there are a few factors we are looking out for, or we always look out for in terms of investors. investors who really understand the markets and the niche we're trying to build for, because their experience can really help you in those tough times while you're trying to build a business. We're looking for investors who could support you all through the lifetime of your business. While you're building a startup, it's not like a 3 or 4 year journey. It's like almost sometimes a 10-year journey. So you want to look out for investors who could work with you no matter the length and time of you spending in that business.
Got it. But like UK has a big fintech landscape, and so I'm just thinking, are you planning to expand over here also and get an investor on board?
We're open to that. As of today, we have customers from the UK who can use Gray to receive payments and make payments as well. So we're open to investors from even here as well.
Okay, so I get it that you're going to raise some more rounds. Will it be pre-seed or Series A in 2025?
Well, different people could call it different rounds, but we've raised a seed, so most likely would be raising a price round after this.
So, ID, could you tell us what are the most important factors that you consider when you're planning your expansions to different countries and regions?
So there are a few factors we look out for. One is dying need for that kind of product. The market you want to expand to, do they have a desperate need for that product, for that service? You also want to consider the market size, especially as a VC-backed business. Do they have the market size for you to really make a lot of revenue and so on? So majorly, and then finally, maybe you're looking out for which markets are easier for you to capture at the time. So these are like three major factors generally you consider when you're trying to make expansions.
Yeah, that's true. Especially in fintech, you're
Yeah.
required to focus on these factors. And also coming to the diversity part of our interview, you're a diverse founder and you have been in US. So is there a perspective difference for you when it comes to a US fintech landscape? When you or do you bring any new perspective to the landscape over there?
Yeah, definitely. I think generally as an entrepreneur, having diverse backgrounds always help you, always help your decision making, always help your perspective of the world generally. And I think it's no different from what I'm experiencing today, where I'm born from Africa and then I'm living in the West today. So, for instance, I've had that direct experience of how difficult it is to receive payment from Africa, in Africa. And then I'm living in the West today and I've seen how advanced the financial landscape and infrastructure is. And which is kind of what we're building at Gray, where we're building like that bridge between the advanced infrastructure and the underserved segment and passporting that experience and creating an experience to enable customers in emerging markets have that global access to the world generally. So
Got it.
yeah, that has really helped.
And tell us about your team at Gray. How big is it? Where all are they? And also, how important is diversity for you when making a hiring decision?
So today we are about 50. We have employees in over 10 plus countries, India, Singapore, here in London, in Africa as well, in the US, in Europe as well. So we have diverse set of employees. And I think it's important, especially for the kind of solution we're building, a global neobank solution, where you want to have as much social cultural context because different regions, different markets have different consumer behavior, have different customer experience expectations, and you want to be able to customize your product to suit these different niches. So it's great for us having that diverse background because it helps us build better products as well.
That's true, especially when you have a perspective from everyone
Yeah,
and their financial challenges,
exactly.
especially
The
in money
unique.
transaction. then you can actually come out with those new ideas and innovation.
Yeah.
Speaking about that, in the next few years, in 2025 and beyond, I would say, what is Gray's plan in terms of tech innovation? What is the next big step or biggest announcement which is coming up?
Well, we have a lot of big plans for next year. We're trying to first increase our market penetration in the existing markets we have, growing our market reach, and making acquiring as much customers as possible. I think that's the number one priority for us. We're also looking to launch new products. We're looking to launch our payment links products. We're looking to launch our rewards products where we would give customers reward points for using Gray, spending with Gray. We're also looking to launch physical cards where digital nomads and remote workers can travel with and spend easily, and a host of other products in the next few months slash years. So we'll definitely let you know as we launch this product as well.
That's great. Physical cards are always great, I believe.
Yeah.
And also, who are your competitors and how are you different from them?
So we have different competitors. First, we have the local banks who are, I would say, like the largest players today, and they own about 80% of the market share today. Then we have the emerging fintechs who are trying to do what we do today. For instance, you look at companies like Nomad in Brazil, you look at companies like Parallax in the Philippines, also trying to serve remote workers. I think one of our key differentiators is one is our global reach, our market penetration. We're one of just we're just the only player who are playing at a global scale today. Every other player is playing at a local and regional Every other player is playing the local and regional play or playing at a global scale, and that gives us an advantage because we're able to acquire customers from more regions and more markets. I think the second thing that really differentiates us is we're not just helping customers to receive payment and send payments. We want to help customers to build wealth and really grow their money. Because one insight we see today is that currency devaluation means that a lot of remote workers don't want to hold local currency. So we're helping these customers hold their money and also build their wealth.
Got it. And how important is AI integration for you? Is it already there in place, or are you planning to launch these new products with some AI integration?
We have AI integrations already in a lot of things we do today. We're using AI to optimize our compliance, to optimize our customer support, to optimize a lot of other things. It's still very early days. I think AI still has a huge role to play in fintechs, in generally startups, because then businesses can optimize their operations, move as fast as they need to move, and also save costs. So it's still early days, but we're really loving what I'm seeing in the AI space today.
Finally, what are the biggest advice that you would give to the diverse founders or in the minority founders who are looking to break into fintech space globally?
Yeah, I think a few things. One is you need to look for a customer pain point and really obsess over that pain point and solve it. That's one thing. You need to really look for a solution that has a market and try to solve it. And the next thing I would say, next advice I'll give is you need to have a lot of courage. You need to believe in yourself. Sometimes when you think of an idea or startup founders think of an idea and you tell it to someone else, immediately or at first time, it looks foolish. But then you need to sometimes be able to back yourself that you know what you're saying, you've seen a problem and you're desperate to solve this problem. You've seen a market for this and you're desperate to make a business out of it. So you need to back yourself. You need to have that courage. I think it's very, very important. That's sometimes what just pushes some founders to success.
That's true. I was watching someone's interview recently who's like a unicorn founder.
Yeah,
And he said that if you're chasing money, then there's no point of starting a startup. But if you're chasing an idea, if you're passionate
yeah,
about the idea, then the money will come automatically.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I would like to end this interview and thank you so much for your time, ID.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, everyone, for watching Tech Talks with TFN. And this is Akansha Dimri, the founder and editor in chief, signing off. I'll be back again with more interesting founders and entrepreneurs from our tech world. Thank you so much for joining.